Hello, viewers. Welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a show where we will provide you fresh insights into South Asia's geopolitical, strategic, and security situation. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Jaish-e-Mohammed's base in Pakistan's Bahawalpur rebuilt 15 months after Operation Sindoor. 5 years on, Afghan women bear the brunt of Taliban rule. And Indian security forces arrest 5 terror associates in separate operations in Jammu and Kashmir. India destroyed a key Jaish-e-Mohammed terror facility in Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. But 15 months later, the same terror compound is back. The Markaz Subhanallah complex in Bahawalpur, a key Jaish-e-Mohammed base, has reportedly been extensively rebuilt, with intelligence inputs alleging that the Pakistani establishment provided funds for its reconstruction. So while India targeted the infrastructure used by terrorists, Pakistan appears to have allowed that infrastructure to rise again. A report.
This is the same Jaish-e-Mohammed terror compound in Bahawalpur that India struck during Operation Sindoor. 15 months later, the damage has reportedly been erased. Fresh plaster, new paint, polished marble, rebuilt domes, and a refurbished central hall. The Markaz Subhanallah complex is reportedly being prepared for regular activity once again. Intelligence inputs cited by Indian media reports allege that the Pakistani establishment provided around 25 crore Pakistani rupees to Jaish-e-Mohammed in installments for the restoration. The physical reconstruction of the compound has been reported by multiple news outlets.
This was the prime target of the Indian Air Force, which was taken out on the 7th of May last year. Now, since 7th of May last year and now 15 months have elapsed, and they have rebuilt it. I've seen the photographs of the rebuilt model, and it is looking far better than what they had earlier. So obviously, a lot of money has gone into it, and this money has not come from any donations or something. It has been given by the government of Pakistan. So this one thing stands out very clearly. It is Pakistan's support to certain terror groups, like the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Hizbul Mujahideen, and all these terrorist groups are the ones which operate against India. Now that is a problem, because while Pakistan says that they are fighting terrorist organizations, they are only fighting those terrorist organizations which are fighting against the Pakistani state. But Pakistan has created certain terrorist organizations which they use as an instrument of their foreign policy against India.
And this is not just another building in Bahawalpur. The United Nations has designated Jaish-e-Mohammed as a terrorist organization, while its founder Masood Azhar was placed on the UN sanctions list in 2019. The UN says Azhar founded Jaish-e-Mohammed after his release from prison in India in 1999. The group has been linked to some of the deadliest terror attacks targeting India, including the 2001 Parliament attack and the 2019 Pulwama bombing. The United States has also previously documented that Jaish-e-Mohammed continued to operate openly in parts of Pakistan despite Islamabad's ban on the group. And Pakistan's problem is bigger than one compound. For years, international assessments have documented the presence of India-focused terror groups, including Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed on Pakistani soil. A US State Department terrorism report said Pakistan continued to provide safe haven to groups including Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, which were able to operate from its territory. Another US assessment said Pakistan had failed to take sufficient action to dismantle groups that continued to operate, train, organize and raise funds inside the country.
Pakistan has always used terrorism as an instrument of its foreign policy. It is not something new. They have been doing that for the last 40 years. So any terrorist, by that I mean they have actually created these groups. So the groups like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, etc., they are located in Pakistan. They are trained by Pakistan, by the ISI, and then they are sent into India.
And the Bahawalpur compound has a particular significance. It is not merely described as a religious or educational complex. Indian intelligence assessments have associated the facility with recruitment, ideological indoctrination, organizational activity, and training for Jaish cadres. The location itself has long attracted attention because of its proximity to a major Pakistani military cantonment. Operation Sindoor itself was launched after the April 22, 2025 Pahalgam terror attack, in which 26 people were killed. On May 7, Indian forces struck 9 terror infrastructure locations in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. 4 of those targets were in Pakistan, including Bahawalpur and Muridke, sites identified by India as linked to Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba.
Prime Minister of India has made it very clear that an attack by terrorists will be retaliated against the sponsors of terrorists. Earlier we were only attacking the terrorists. So if you see Operation Sindoor, our response last year on 7th May, the initial response was only on the terrorist camps, not against the Pakistan military. Now all bets are off. If there is a terrorist attack against India and we trace it to Pakistan, then Pakistan, the state of Pakistan, will have to face the consequences. That is the deterrent we have got now.
Pakistan can ban Jaish-e-Mohammed on paper. It can prosecute a few individuals. It can make promises to the international community. But when a terror headquarters is reportedly rebuilt, when the infrastructure returns, and when a UN-designated terror group continues to find space to operate, the evidence on the ground tells a very different story.
Five years ago, the withdrawal of US-led forces from Afghanistan set the stage for the Taliban's dramatic return to power. 5 years on, the group marked its anniversary on August 15, celebrating what it calls a victory over foreign forces. The Taliban say they have brought security and stability after decades of war. But behind that claim lies another story, one of a country where Afghan women and girls have seen their rights and freedoms steadily stripped away. From classrooms and workplaces to public spaces and even their freedom of movement, the space available to Afghan women has narrowed dramatically under Taliban rule. And while women remain at the center of the rights crisis, Afghanistan itself continues to grapple with a worsening humanitarian situation, economic hardship, and growing tensions. The Taliban entered Kabul as the Afghan government collapsed and President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. 5 years later, the Taliban are marking their return to power with parades and celebrations across Kabul. They point to nationwide territorial control and the end of the foreign military presence as major achievements. But for Afghan women, the Taliban's return has meant something very different, a steady rollback of rights and freedoms. Education has become the clearest symbol of that rollback. Afghanistan remains the only country in the world where girls are barred from secondary and higher education. UNESCO estimates that 2.4 million girls have been excluded from secondary education since the Taliban returned to power. Women have also been banned from universities since 2022.
Since day one, we have been speaking about a generational gap through this educational banning. According to the estimate we have, today 2.4 million girls have now been excluded and banned from accessing secondary education since 2021. This number shows clearly a 200,000 addition since last school year that we had reported. This is the number of girls who finished primary education with success and naturally could have continued to secondary education, but unfortunately, because of the current policies by de facto authorities, they can't.
And the consequences go far beyond a generation missing school. Women have been pushed out of most public sector jobs and many professions. Restrictions on movement, including requirements for a male guardian in many circumstances, have made access to work, healthcare, and public life increasingly difficult. Women have also been barred from places including parks and gyms. The result is a society where women are increasingly confined to the home.
5 years after the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, we stand together as a broad cross-regional group of United Nations member states in solidarity with the Afghan people, and we reaffirm our steadfast commitment to a future where all Afghans, without exception, can enjoy the fundamental rights, freedoms, and dignity in peace and prosperity. 5 years on, Afghanistan faces profound human rights, humanitarian, economic, and security challenges, placing immense pressure on the Afghan people and creating risk for the stability and security of neighboring countries and the wider region. The Taliban's systematic repression of women and girls has become a defining feature of the current system. Afghanistan remains the only country in the world where girls are banned from secondary and higher education. The grave abuse of the right to education is also having far-reaching consequences for Afghanistan's economic development and provision of essential public services.
The restrictions on women are now part of a broader human rights crisis. The Taliban have dismantled key institutions created to protect women's rights and human rights, while governance has become increasingly centralized under the Taliban's supreme leader Haibatullah Akhundzada. At the same time, Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis has deepened. Drought, earthquakes, food insecurity, and the return of Afghans from Pakistan and Iran are adding pressure to an economy already struggling with reduced international assistance. The Taliban can claim one major achievement. The country is no longer engulfed in the nationwide war that defined much of the previous 2 decades. But peace has not translated into prosperity. Millions of Afghans continue to need humanitarian assistance, while unemployment, poverty, and food insecurity remain major challenges. And Afghanistan's problems are no longer confined within its borders. Relations with Pakistan have deteriorated sharply, with repeated border clashes and tensions over terror groups adding another layer of instability. Diplomatically, the Taliban remain largely isolated. Russia has formally recognized the Taliban government, while several regional countries have expanded engagement with Kabul. But broad international recognition remains elusive, with women's rights among the key obstacles. The Taliban continue to insist that their policies are based on their interpretation of Islamic law.
Women in every society are playing very vital role, be it any country. And there are a number of Islamic countries. Turkey is there, there is Saudi Arabia, which is also now liberalizing its political system, and women are getting certain rights in these countries. So Taliban, I don't know what is their interpretation of Islam and why they wanted to control women. I think that's not good for a country like Afghanistan, which needs people contribution in the development of a country. And women have seen liberation in Afghanistan when there was a different regime. Of course, the US was present there, but women there was getting educated, they were out of the house. Now, if you wanted to put half of your population inside the rooms, I think that's not good.
5 years after the Taliban returned to Kabul, Afghanistan is quieter in many places than it was during the war. But for Afghan women, the price of that new order has been the loss of freedoms once taken for granted. A generation of girls is growing up without secondary school. Women are disappearing from workplaces and public spaces. And the longer those restrictions remain, the deeper their impact on Afghanistan's future. The Taliban may call August 15 a day of victory. For millions of Afghan women and girls, it remains a story of rights lost and a future put on hold. India is tightening the noose around the terror networks operating in Jammu and Kashmir. Security forces have arrested terror associates in South Kashmir, recovering grenades, ammunition, and material linked to the banned Hizbul Mujahideen terror outfit. The arrests come amid a wider India security forces effort to dismantle the networks that link Pakistan-backed terror groups with infiltration, weapon supply, and local overground workers. A report.
In South Kashmir, security forces have arrested 5 terror associates in separate operations in Shopian and Pulwama. 2 hand grenades and Hizbul Mujahideen posters were recovered in Shopian. In Pulwama, another operation led to the recovery of a pistol, 12 rounds of ammunition and a hand grenade. The operations involved Jammu and Kashmir Police, the Indian Army and the CRPF.
In Jammu and Kashmir, all the security agencies are on full alert and they're on a proactive mode. And whatever you've been seeing for last, say, 2 or 3 months, you will find all such incidents are happening in South Kashmir and nowhere else. I mean, very minimal presence else, almost nil in Jammu area, very less in North Kashmir, majority is in South Kashmir. That was because of the Amarnath Yatra and the unrest in the POJK. Now, why it is in South Kashmir? Because South Kashmir is a highway that is called Mughal Road, which is an infiltration route.
Just days before these arrests, India's National Investigation Agency searched 10 locations across Jammu and Kashmir in a case involving Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba handlers and local overground workers. The investigation is focused on allegations that these local networks provide logistical support to terrorists infiltrating from Pakistan. In July, the Indian government designated 23 Pakistan-based terror functionaries as terrorists under the UAPA. India says the individuals were involved in activities including infiltration, arms trafficking, terror financing, recruitment and facilitating terrorist organizations. 17 of those designated were Pakistani nationals and 6 were Indian nationals, with the government stating that all 23 were operating from Pakistan or Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Among those named were operatives linked to Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, including individuals accused of facilitating infiltration and moving weapons into India through routes including tunnels and drones.
So after 370 was gone, the complete focus was on the valley. So they shifted to Rajouri Poonch, then they got stuck there also, then they shifted to Jammu region, so they got stuck here also. Now they are absolutely choked. Now what they have to do is, they have to get some kind of a recognition at an international level. So with the help of this rehabilitation policy of their overground workers or the sleeper cells or this hybrid sort of attacking the civilians who are innocent guys, like what happened in Pahalgam and all, you know it. So they're trying to get some kind of a mileage into the thing. But then Operation Sindoor is on. Even those guys are aware that in case they do anything of that sort again, there will be a direct attack on Pakistan, and that too in the hinterland. And now you've seen even Hafiz Saeed has been booked by the court in the J&K and it's been issued as a non-bailable warrant. So such kind of proactive things which probably were missing earlier are now in force and they're getting the results.
And Hizbul Mujahideen is only one part of a wider terror ecosystem. For decades, Pakistan-based terror outfits have attempted to push violence across the line of control, using infiltration, weapons transfers, local facilitators and propaganda to sustain instability. A US State Department terrorism report has described Pakistan as a safe haven for certain regionally focused terrorist groups, including groups targeting India such as Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen. More recently, India's National Investigation Agency has documented what it calls a Pakistan-backed terror ecosystem involving overground workers, local operatives, weapons deliveries and attempts to radicalize and mobilize youth in Jammu and Kashmir. Indian agencies are increasingly focusing not only on armed terrorists, but on the wider support structure, from weapons couriers and overground workers to handlers and financing networks. The objective is clear: prevent Pakistan-backed terror groups from converting cross-border support into violence on Indian soil. And every such disruption makes it harder for these groups to disturb the peace and normalcy returning to Jammu and Kashmir.
A fresh rift is emerging within Pakistan's security establishment. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Bannu, police personnel have reportedly boycotted duties, accusing the Pakistan Army of interfering in counter-terror operations and pressuring them to release suspected terrorists. The allegations once again raise questions over Pakistan's long-standing approach to terrorist groups. To speak on the matter, we are joined by Foreign Affairs expert Robinder Sachdev, who explains what this confrontation reveals about Pakistan's terror policy. Hello, sir. Welcome to Newsweek South Asia. My first question to you is, a report from Bannu in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa says police have accused the Pakistan Army of interfering in counter-terror operations, pressuring them to release suspected terrorists and even sheltering some. Does this expose a deeper contradiction in Pakistan's counter-terror policy, fighting some terrorists while protecting others?
Yeah, it does obviously indicate that, and it is to be noted that this is not the first incident. I think in September 2024, over hundreds of policemen of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province had blocked the highway, and the allegation was that the Pakistan Army and the military intelligence is interfering in their work, asking them to release people whom they're arresting and not allowing them to carry on their work. In fact, that blockade was lifted only when the administration gave it in writing, and the army said that it will not interfere in the future in the police operations. So for an army to say in writing that it will not interfere in the future means there must have been something that they had to acknowledge and accept.
The immediate trigger is reportedly the transfer of 7 police personnel, but the police allege this came after they resisted pressure to release terror suspects. How significant is it when Pakistan's own police accuse the military of undermining counter-terror operations?
No, it certainly is very, very obvious that there is a friction between the police and the army or the military, you could say. What is happening is that the center is trying to control the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa police, or let's say that is the tussle which is going on, that the center and the army and the military intel, they want to control the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa police, which the police doesn't want and the province doesn't want. And on top of it, I think only yesterday or 2 days ago, the IG police of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was to be transferred, but his transfer has been put on hold under pressure from the army, whereas the province wants him gone because he's from the Punjab cadre.
There is a long history of allegations that Pakistan's security establishment has differentiated between terrorists useful for strategic purposes and those seen as threats to the Pakistani state. Does Bannu suggest the good Taliban, bad Taliban distinction still exists?
Oh, absolutely it does. It does very well, indicate the good Taliban, the bad Taliban, or good terrorist or bad. I mean, a good freedom fighter and a bad terrorist. Essentially, that's what they're saying. It does, the Bannu incident definitely reflects that. And that too, it's coming from within Pakistan. It is coming from within a province, and the police of that province is saying that the military and the intelligence are asking us not to arrest some, or if we have arrested, to release some militants, or to not even look at some groups with whom the military has actually a non-aggression agreements. Right, so the good Taliban are the ones with whom the military and the intel want to have no mutual aggression. But on the other hand, they are plain and simple terrorists, carrying out their own activities.
India has long argued that defeating terrorism requires dismantling the entire ecosystem of shelter, financing, and state patronage, not just targeting individual terrorists. Do these allegations from Bannu reinforce India's position?
Oh, they certainly do very well. Reinforce India's position and what we have been saying or claiming for years and years. When within the country, the police of a province is saying that the army and the military intelligence are in bed with the militants, and as per their preference, a good militant or a bad militant, they ask us to release those whom we arrest. So where is the zero tolerance against extremism that Pakistan talks about? It is clearly Pakistan's military and intelligence plays games. And once again, I'm saying we can see this is an example within their own country. They're playing games with their own police. Okay, to nurture and perpetuate their own objectives, whatsoever they may be. I mean, they are obviously playing some game. I would assume Pakistan Army wants the best for Pakistan, but the game that they're playing is not at all the right game for Pakistan.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, please.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views, and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@nin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.